Good morning. So here we are at Meatfare Sunday. This is our Mardi Gras, our Carnival. After all, Carnival just means goodbye to meat, right? The whole celebration that today has just kind of lost its original meaning, but was always a preparation for Lent in the Roman Catholic Church. But St. Paul says today in the first reading that we don't have to fast. It's not a sin if we choose not to fast or we can't for whatever physical reasons. Fasting is not primarily for us a sacrifice or meant to cause us suffering. I know some people think of it in those ways, but really it's meant to be a tithe of the year. It's meant to be, just as we give back to God in other ways, we give back a tenth of our year in gratitude for all that God has given us. It's a time not of giving things up necessarily, but of intensifying the practices that we should have in our lives already. We should have a spirit of fasting. We fast Wednesdays and Fridays every week from meat. We should have a sense of self-discipline, and we should have a prayer life, and we should be giving, reaching out to others in love and mercy, those who are in need. And so all of those things we do more intentionally during the season of the Great Fast. One way to think about the season of the fast also is that it's a way of being in solidarity with the poor, being able to identify, not just mentally, not just thinking about people, but also embodying that sense that there are people all around the world who can't choose whether they want to fast or not. People suffering in Gaza, people who are suffering in Ukraine, in Africa. The estimation is that there are 30,000 people a day who die of starvation in the world. And, for us to be not just thinking, mindful of that, but actually to embody it and to stand with those people who feel exiled from the church, people who are struggling in some way or another. People right here in Alabama, we have this wonderful program, Backpack Buddies, that we support. But we, during this Lenten season, can feel the hunger that the children here in Alabama feel and be in connection with them. So that's one way of thinking about the season of the fast. Sometimes we get bogged down in the letter of the law, right? We keep all the rules. And that's good if we can do it, but it's more about keeping the spirit of the fast. And so one way of thinking about the fast is that we take away all the kind of exotic foods, right? So let me give you a good example. In the tradition of the fast, in the ancient world, shellfish was poor people's food, right? So it's always allowed in the fast. You can always have shrimp and oysters and things like that. Now, in our culture today, some of those foods are luxury foods. So is it really in keeping with the fast? Oh, I'm going to have lobster tonight. I'm keeping the fast, But you can't have lobster without butter, so you can't have butter, so. But another way of thinking about it is that we take away all the party foods, right? We fast from meat and cheese and all kind of animal products. And then during the weekdays, wine and olive oil. And again, olive oil was part of the Byzantine economy, but it was a rich people food, right? And so, but if you think about it today, when we have a party, we want to have, all sorts of, rich, fatty things to enjoy. And during the season of Lent, we're meant to be a little more reflective or a little more somber and not be partying. And so when we say, sometimes again, when people talk about the spirit or the letter of the law, the rule says no wine. But does that mean we can have bourbon or beer or something else? It's a matter of keeping the spirit of the season, which is a season of sobriety. The full rules of the fast are that during the weekdays we eat nothing at all from midnight to noon or midnight to 3, and then when we have food it is vegan, and during the weekdays no wine or olive oil. On Saturday is the Sabbath, and Sunday is the Lord's Day, and on certain feast days, we're allowed to have wine and olive oil. And there are 2 feast days during the season that we're strict, if you're following a very strict fast, that you can have fish. Not shellfish, but fish. And those are the Annunciation of Jesus on the 25th of March and Palm Sunday. This year they're both on the same day, so you only get one. And almost all of the feasts that are allowed for wine and oil are on Saturday and Sunday already. So this year we're getting kind of shortchanged in our feast days during the season of the great fast. If you're not able to keep the full fast, then modify it. But I would advise you against going and doing your own thing. Like, okay, sometimes people say, oh, I'm giving up candy bars, or I'm giving up ice cream, or whatever. That kind of fasting isolates us, right? So when Pascha comes, I go over here and eat my candy bars, and you go over there and eat your ice cream. But even if you're not keeping the full fast, even if you're only doing part of it, we celebrate together. After this evening, the next time I put meat in my mouth, we'll be singing Christ is risen. I will be not only thinking about the risen Jesus, but I will feel him in my body. I will feel the fullness and the richness of the feast because I've fasted for essentially 2 months from meat. And so we keep a vegan fast because it allows us to be mindful of living back in paradise again. There was no shedding of blood in paradise. Adam and Eve ate meat only once they were exiled from the garden. And so it allows us to be thinking about being back in paradise again in harmony with all creation. However we spend these days of the fast, however we choose to do so, hopefully at least we'll try to do something. I mean, all of us can fast from alcohol, right? Or else there should be another conversation. All of us should fast from gossip and judgment and self-centeredness so that we might in some way turn back to God in these days so that we might come to the season of Pascha with joy and richness and beauty. So let's do this.